that remains to be seen, but that ain't the only marquee game we've got this weekend. There's so much hype around this Arkansas-Georgia game, but one thing that I think is not being discussed enough, and I really just wanted to give praise to these two head coaches, Sam Pittman, Kirby Smart. It's been somewhat of a love fest this week leading up to this game, and after they faced each other last season, there was a lot of praise both ways. So these are some recent comments from Sam Pittman on Kirby Smart, and Kirby Smart kind of returned the favor on talking up Sam Pittman. I just thought these comments were pretty good.
Hey, Sam, I caught a podcast with you from this summer where you were talking to a guy who covers Georgia, and you said that you hadn't really talked to Kirby much before an on-the-field Alabama-Arkansas game. After the game, it was 14 or 15, do you recall?
Oh, when did I talk to Kirby?
Yeah, was it the 14 game here?
14 here.
Yeah.
14 here, and he just came over and said that when he gets a job, he's going to make it hard for me not to go with him. And I told him, you better go back and look at the tape before you get to saying all that stuff. And he laughed. And I'm not one of them, calling guys and writing them notes, and that ain't my style. So I just waited, and we went over there and played him. He said some nice things then. And then whenever he got the job, he had his agent reach out to me.
You've talked about the Herschel Walker era at Georgia. Was it just because he was a badass, or you like the way
Yes.
Georgia ran the ball?
He sure was, man. And I mean, it was, at 1980, I'm in high school. I'm graduating in 80. And yes. Man, he's the biggest, fastest guy I'd ever seen. And they were rolling, so yeah, that's where it started.
Kirby, what is there one thing that you would credit Coach Pittman with as far as what you learned the most from him when he was on your staff?
Yeah, it's probably morale and positivity. Sam's a really, really optimistic, positive guy, especially with his players and his relationship with them. He was always good for me to be around leading up to games, or you're worried about something. Sam always had a great spin and a great vibe on it. And he was great for our staff, staff morale. And he's just a phenomenal person. And I'd always heard so many good things about him as a coach at Alabama. And we tried to hire him a couple of times and could never get him. And then when I got the job, he was the number one guy that I targeted, and was so thankful that he came with us.
All right, so I had no idea old Sam Pittman was such a big Herschel Walker fan too, so I thought that was pretty neat. But, the main reason I wanted to play these clips, because it got me thinking, yeah, it's all positive, it's all great. No bad blood between these two heading into Saturday's action. But, one thing that I had not thought about until I was playing these clips, this clearly the biggest game of the Sam Pittman era in hell. The Texas game was the biggest game at the time. A&M was the biggest game at the time. So no stranger to Arkansas and these big games. Now they just keep getting bigger as long as you keep winning. But, let's flip it to the other side. I don't think there's a lot of pressure on Kirby Smart necessarily this week. I think there is this season to capitalize on such a good team, and now they finally have the offense coming together. But it had me thinking, what if in year 2 of his program, Sam Pittman goes into Athens and beats Kirby Smart's Georgia program? Just imagine the storylines. Former offensive line coach for Georgia comes into Athens and beats Kirby Smart, who's had such a head start on him and has got arguably the best roster in the country. And that just got me thinking of, the pressure that may be on Kirby to win this game. And not only win it, but, look good doing it. Because, what's that going to say of his program if his former offensive line coach is coming in there and beating him, and he's only in his second year and he doesn't even have a full roster of players that he recruited? Well, that was something that was pitched all off season in Athens. Kirby's finally got his, an entire roster basically outside of a couple transfers, of course, that are guys that he exclusively recruited coming out of high school or JUCO or wherever you're getting them. But that's just something to think about. And I don't know if that necessarily places any extra pressure on Kirby now, but it certainly will come Sunday. There's going to be many, many, many people talking about that if the Razorbacks find a way to go in there and get the win. And we hit on it previously. Trey Williams, if Arkansas is to get that W, it's going to come by this defense, I think, causing havoc for Georgia's offense, which, Clemson kind of did a similar thing and really negated them. There was not an offensive touchdown in that game. I certainly think Georgia's gotten better since that season opener, as you'd anticipate, but that's something to monitor, and that is something Sam Pittman also hit on, the fact that he knew what he was getting in Trey Williams. So let's play this clip. And again, I'll just go back to back with Kirby here because it was all rosy and we're all getting good news. Darnell Washington, Tyke Smith back in action. Now it sounds like, that may not necessarily be the case. So let's kick it over to Sam Pittman and Kirby Smart.
Trey Williams, you guys obviously thought it'd be good or else you wouldn't have recruited him. But has he surprised you at all? And in retrospect, how big a get was he?
No, I've been a Trey Williams fan for a long time. And, especially when you go in the portal, I feel like we hit, in the portal. But when you see guys play you and they're giving you trouble, and again, I had a couple fortunate enough to have a couple first round tackles there at Georgia. And Trey was, he was hard to block with those guys. I knew that if we could get him, that he could solve some of the pass rushing issues that we had, along with, getting our guys better here. But no, he really hasn't surprised me, Bob. I expected that he would play like he has.
Coach, earlier this week, you talked about the challenges that all the blitzes that Coach Lanning presents. Having gone against him and been in staff meetings, does that give you any type of advantage, or is it kind of negated by the fact that he's also familiar with you?
Well, that's the problem. He knows I know, and he's going to give me a different look than what he's giving somebody else. And then, instead of coming from one side, it's going to be the other side. And so, yeah, he knows. I mean, he knows Coach Kenny was there. I was there. I mean, he knows we know what Georgia does. And he might just say, this is what we do, and try to block us. The other thing he might. So that's the beauty of college coaching or any coaching, is trying to outwit the other guy and just make sure you don't screw your own team up, by getting giving each other too much credit.
Both up and down. They both practiced both days. I thought Tyke looked better on Monday. He was quick moving around, and we got him on pitch count. They're only able to take limited reps from a standpoint of their foot gets sore as the volume goes up. Darnell struggled a little bit yesterday, but then he looked good today. I thought he did a good job today. And, both of them they've got a ways to go. I don't know if they'll be able to play in the game or not, but they're working towards it. I can promise you that. It's not just being cleared, it's everything else involved in it. It's from being behind, stamina, execution, getting them reps, and it's tough, I'll be honest with you, but I'm still very hopeful that they both can help us.
Hey, what kind of problems does a big physical receiver like Treylon Burks give to y'all's defense?
Well, he's a tough matchup, because first of all, they put him everywhere. He's in the backfield, he's at quarterback, he's at receiver, he's at slot, he's a tight end. He does everything. They find ways to get him the ball, and he's fast. He's faster than you think he is. He gets out there on the edge and can go. And really tough. So, obviously when it comes to 50-50 ball, size matters. And he's got great length and really good ball skills. So, he was a problem for us last year. He's been a problem for the SEC for a while, and he's a really good football player.
All right, so those comments in particular from Kirby really stand out to me because, just because a guy's back, and this goes for a lot of these players on Georgia's roster. They've been slowly working these guys back in, and based on these comments, it doesn't sound to me like Tyke Smith and Darnell Washington, they may be officially back. They're practicing, of course, but are they game ready? Are they in shape? Are they, how many snaps can Georgia realistically get out of these guys? So I don't know. That's just something something to monitor, because it certainly sounded like on Monday they were good to go. Now, I don't want to say setbacks, but it certainly seems like after a couple of days of practice, we're kind of changing our tune on how effective those guys could be this weekend against Arkansas. So, hey, I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm as the week is going on, I'm liking Arkansas more and more in this matchup.